How's everyone doing today? I am back for another Pokemon Black and White Wi-Fi battle. This is actually an OU match, which I haven't done in a little while, but my opponent is using two UU Pokemon, the Shaman and the Mienshao, and this is actually being recorded on June 29th, so the new Smogon tiers are actually going to be coming out in a few days. I really doubt that either of those two Pokemon get moved up to OU, though, but you never know. So I'm just saying, right now, as of the day that I'm recording this, they are UU, but you never know what'll happen when the new tiers come out, so they could be OU actually by the time this comes out. But anyway, I've rambled about that for a little bit too long. Looking at the team preview, I figured he would lead with his T-Tar to get the sand up early, and my team is actually pretty typical. Like, I used the overused of the overused pretty much. You know, my Terrakion, my Blissey, my Latios, Volcarona, you know, all that stuff. My team is pretty damn typical and run-of-the-mill. Just a mainly offensive set, though my Blissey is enough of a bulk, big-ass tank for my entire team. Metagross can take a couple of hits, you know, but my Terrakion, my Volcarona, and my Gengar are my hard hitters. Latios is my mixed attacker, stuff like that. So you guys should basically get what I'm doing here. And anyway, let's go ahead and jump right into the match. So he actually does end up not leading with his T-Tar. Like, he actually ends up leading with his Magnezone. I'm not really sure exactly why exactly he would do that, but I guess because he really didn't know what I would lead off with. So I just led off with my Latios because I figured no matter what, I could do something to his T-Tar. But I figured that he would actually go for a Thunder Wave or something like that, so I switched out in my Blissey to take that, get that natural cure on that thing, you know. I didn't know exactly what kind of status ailment he would go for, but I figured no matter what, I'm safe as long as I switch into Blissey. So then he switches out into his T-Tar, and I sort of predicted he would change into someone, so I had just set up Rocks, but I didn't want to, you know, over-predict and go for Toxic, and he ends up staying in, or something like that, but I figured he would change out, so I had just set up Rocks, even though it really wasn't a huge impact on this game, you know, because at the team preview, I could tell that his team wasn't anything that's incredibly weak to Rocks, but, anyway, I switched out in my Latios because I wanted to have him out, you know, for the T-Tar. The main thing that I was fearing from a T-Tar would be like a Crunch or something like that, that could hit my Latios pretty hard, but I had just gone for the Energy Ball because I almost figured that he would predict a Surf and go into his Starmie, so I kind of played it a little safe here and went for the Energy Ball, but he actually ended up staying in, and luckily his Stone Edge missed, so I was like, alright, you know, I can live with that, because the Energy Ball didn't do that much damage, but it was still super effective, which is saying a lot, because I have a Expert Belt Latios, and that still didn't do very much, but this time I went for the Surf because I knew it would do a little bit more damage, and I figured he wouldn't change into his Starmie, you know, this time. And this next turn I was even more cautious about using Energy Ball because I thought maybe he would really predict a Surf and go into his Starmie or whatever to resist it or whatever, but, you know, I guess he really wasn't that worried about his T-Tar now that he got the Sand up and he got his Rocks set up, which I don't blame him because that's really the main purpose of it, I guess, for him. You know, he even got in some pretty damn good damage on my Latios, to be completely honest. So my Latios was actually really weak at this point, and like I said, I'm Expert Belt, so I really wasn't going to be getting any health from anywhere. In fact, the Sandstorm damage was going to be hurting me a lot, so I had switched out into my Gengar to avoid a Fake Out because I knew that that would really quickly kill off my Latios. Figured I had nothing to lose for changing out, you know, I could sack my Latios later or maybe even get in one last move with him, so there was no point in me staying in and taking that. But actually his Stone Edge does end up killing off my Gengar because my Gengar is actually really frail, as you can tell most are, but he doesn't really do that much this match other than sort of save my Latios at that point. So yeah, I switched back out into my Latios, and the Stealth Rocks just about kill me right here. And he switches out into his Magnezone here, and that was probably the worst thing that he could have switched out, for me anyway. It was actually a really good play on his part, because I don't think a single one of my moves would do well against that Magnezone, but I guess Draco Meteor probably would have done the most because of the stab boost and all that. It did a little bit of damage, but it still kind of pissed me off that one last turn that I was hoping for to get with Latios, it was kind of wasted like that, because I was just going to go for the Draco Meteor, hope it would, you know, just about knock out the Mienshao, or at least do a lot of damage to it. But at this point I switched out into my Volcarona, and I was really afraid that he would stay in, knowing that I would go for a Quiver Dance here, and he actually did do that, but I was kind of willing to take that risk here. you know, go ahead and get the stat boost up, because Quiver Dance is so awesome. And I was thinking to myself, if he does stay in, I know exactly what's going to happen. I'm going to get paralyzed, and he's going to get the fuck out and dodge, you know. So that's pretty much what happened. He just goes for the Thunder Wave, but I actually forget if he stays in or not this turn. I actually think he does stay in. Yeah, he just goes for the T-Bolt really quick here, because, you know, he was able to outspeed me with my paralyzation and everything, but it didn't do that much damage to me because of my special defense raise that I'd gotten, and the Flamethrower was able to finish him off pretty easily there. I almost wonder if a Flamethrower without my Quiver Dance would have been able to finish it off, in which case that would have been awesome, but I really wasn't willing to take that risk, I guess, which probably would have ended up better for me in the end, even if it was a 2-co or whatever there. Not really a 2-co, but a 2 finish off O. And he goes for the Stone Age here because he outsped me. I was going to go for a Hurricane. That probably would have missed anyway, so, you know, it really wasn't that big of a deal. I was almost done with Volcarona at that point. He had gotten rid of the Magna Zone, so, yeah, I mean, granted, he still did have that Shaman and stuff like that that it wouldn't have hurt to have, but I switched into my, my Metagross here, and I kind of thought that he would change out, because I was starting to wonder if he was choiced, because I really don't remember him using 2 different moves, or actually no, he did earlier. He went for Fake Out and then Stone Edge, so I don't know why, but for whatever reason in my head I thought he would change out, so I went for the Pursuit. But yeah, he wasn't choiced. I remember that now that he did use 2 moves in one thing. But anyway, I go for a Bullet Punch, not really expecting to kill him, and I guess that the stab boost was enough to finish it off. I really don't know how the hell that worked. I know Mienshao isn't exactly that bulky, but still, that was really impressive for me. And I was thinking in my head, he's gonna go for HP Fire, he's gonna go for HP Fire, but I thought, if I switch out into Terrakion to resist this, then he's gonna go for Seed Flare. I know that that's what's gonna happen, so I stayed in and just kind of death foddered out my Metagross there. I was really kind of hoping that maybe he would go for the Seed Flare and I could live it and Ice Punch him, but that of course didn't happen. So now I switch out into my Blissey, and he does go for a Seed Flare here that does next to nothing, because I'm a fucking tank, you know, especially with that special defense and stuff. So I just go for the Flamethrower here to see how much damage it does. Doesn't do that much, but, you know, it does, I would say, a little bit less than half, maybe, you know, somewhere more than a quarter or whatever. But we just kind of go back and forth here a little bit. And I think he goes for a rest here this next turn, or maybe very close to this turn or something like that. Yeah, he does go for a rest, and I guess for whatever reason in my head, I wasn't thinking Natural Cure, even though I was, because I was thinking, like, I knew that it didn't matter if I got a burn on him with my Flamethrower, because he would be able to cure it out anyway, but I was still doing it, you know, mainly for the damage. So when he went to sleep, I was like, yes, I can get like 2 or 3 more Flamethrowers on him and kill him easily. This is awesome. But he actually did just end up changing straight out into his Latios. For whatever reason, I was thinking he would do Sleep Talk. I really didn't, like I said, didn't even think of Natural Cure getting rid of that. Not even positive if Shaman can learn Natural Sleep Talk. So I didn't go for the Toxic, or else I would have right off the bat if I had thought. If I was a little bit smarter about this stuff than I would have if I had put more thought into this. But I just go for the Flamethrower. Does next to nothing on that Latios because it resists it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the only way I'm going to be able to do damage to this thing is by poisoning it and stalling it the fuck out. And you may have noticed that the video is a little faster right now. That's because this is some pretty straightforward stalling right here. You know, this is kind of where I felt a little cheap here, because I usually hate sweepers and stallers. I hate, because I don't like sweepers because it takes the competitive edge out of the game, if you ask me. Like, I have absolutely no fun sweeping, you know, and I'm talking like very beginning of the game sweep, you know, like you raise your stats, you baton pass, you sweep an entire team like that with one Pokemon. Endgame sweeps are actually really cool to watch, and stalling, I just always feel so helpless, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna murder you, but stalling's fun when you do it like this, and it's really close, and I almost died there by his Psyshock, and my Soft Boiled, you know, I just keep kind of going for this. I figured he would have a recover somewhere, because he didn't seem that threatened by this Toxic, and that also made me a little bit suspicious of the fact that maybe his Shaman carries Aromatherapy and is just sort of his support guy, kind of, almost a little bit. But I started to figure he's got something up his sleeve right now. Either that or he must not care about his Latios at all here. But yeah, basically we were just going back and forth stalling, and like I said, I was really kind of trying to see what he would do. Sorry about that, something just fell down. But then he switches back out into his Shaman, and I just gone for the Soft Boiled because I'm dumb, I guess, and I didn't really predict that he would change right then that turn, or else I could have gone for a Flamethrower that probably would have killed the Shaman. Maybe it would have left it with a Strand of Health, but it really wouldn't matter unless it absolutely killed it for what he's about to do right now. Because when he did change out, I was like, oh shit, I know exactly what's going to happen. He's going to go for that aromatherapy, and I'm going to have to toxic his Latios all over again. So he goes ahead and does that, and when he switched back in, his natural cure got rid of the sleep, and I was able to flamethrower him that one turn, which did knock him out. So then I felt a little bit more secure. I was like, okay, I do know that his last Pokemon is a Starmie, so it will have the cure and everything too. So, you know, I'll still have to deal with that, but I did know that his Latios was a little bit, you know, I guess I could deal with it a little easier now. It wouldn't have much of a place to run because it wouldn't have aromatherapy or anything like that anymore. And he does get me paralyzed on that very first T-Ball right there, which did kind of suck, but I actually don't think that I get para-haxed that much throughout this, if at all, really. But I just go ahead and get the Toxic on him because I figure even if he does just switch out to fix it, then that's one switch out that I'll get. That's one free little move, you know? And that was all that I could really do. It was either that or Flamethrower. I don't think you guys can argue with my choice too much there. But I was thinking of it this way. He had the status ailment that was dealing him damage. I had the status ailment that was just kind of, you know, making a few of my moves miss a little bit. And I knew none of his attacks were going to do that much to me because Starmie and Latios are both, you know, special attackers, and Blissey can actually deal pretty good damage. I mean, he can take pretty good damage from both of those, of course. And I started to wonder more about the item that his Latios was carrying. It wasn't a choice item at all, because that's what I was thinking was choice specs, maybe even Scarf, but then he used that recover after all those size shocks, and he didn't have leftovers, so I'm thinking expert belt probably, unless it was something else obvious that I just missed. But I'm thinking he had an expert belt Latios, which is kind of a good thing because, you know, of course Psychic isn't going to be super effective against my Blissey. However, my last Pokemon is a Terrakion, so I knew that if it came down to that, then I'd be kind of fucked, especially if it was an expert belt. So he switches into his Latios, which is his last Pokemon right here, and he just goes for another Psy Shock, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not sure if I can tank this one. I'm not sure, because, you know, usually those Psy Shocks were doing a good bit of damage. It left me with about 121 health left, and I went ahead and made sure to get it Toxic. I figured I could Flamethrower, but that'll do next to nothing. Might as well get him Toxic, and hopefully that, combined with the Sandstorm damage from his T-Tar that died ages ago, will help me out in the plan that I was thinking right now. So he goes for another Psy Shock. I knew I was going to die, you know, I knew he wouldn't go for Recover here, or at least I was really planning on it, but I did go for Soft Boil just in case he did do that, just to get my health back up. But now it's down to my Terrakion versus his Latios. Very obvious type advantage on his part, but right here I could have gone for the X-Scissor, but I knew that if he was Jolly nature like mine is, then he would outspeed me. I go for the Quick Attack, finishes off his Latios with a weak-ass move like Quick Attack, and that is the end of this fight. I would like to thank you all for watching. Hope you have a nice day, and goodbye.